I'd seen it, and my brother was named after this movie.
Holy crap!
My
Was your
father,
brother's
my
name
father,
Luke?
my
Yeah.
father was,
Yeah.
well, back in the
I
old
don't know his brother.
times when fathers didn't necessarily weren't in the delivery room with the mother. As I understand it, he was at the movies across the street seeing this, and when he came out,
Yeah.
So it wasn't
excited.
after long consideration that they arrived at the name. It was
No, as
kind
I
of
understand it, it was a pretty quick decision.
Yeah. I got taken to see this film when it came out in 1967. Do the math.
You were 7.
I was, yes. No, I was 5.
Hmm.
I was 5 years old, and my dad took me to see this. It's like, oh, you might learn something. And it was like, all right, fine. The only thing I really remember out of it
You
was,
learn never to
when,
fuck around in the South.
yeah. Don't get
was when
arrested in the South.
that was when the warden hit Luke, and like, now we have here is fairly communicated. I remember that very vividly when I was a kid, because the way it works foreground to background, when he rolls into the foreground
Yeah.
and that stuff's happening, that's just so well done. And
This movie
film,
is so dynamic.
it is not a slack moment. And
I disagree.
okay, well, all right, I'll hear.
I'm talking in terms of shot choices and the way it's put together.
I think there's a lot of fat that could have been trimmed, maybe.
There's a lot of
This
stuff
movie
that's
is
like,
boring as
Oh,
fuck.
I wouldn't go that far.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
There's
fuck
some-
you. It's
there's some
boring
weird-
as shit.
there's
This is
some
the third
weird
time
side-
I've seen it, and I never want to watch it again because I've almost fell asleep twice while I was watching
all right,
this because it's so fucking boring. Like
Oh.
nothing happens in this movie, and also, yeah, prison's
I see
bad.
Jim just shaking his head.
Prison's bad. I get it. Cool. Anyway, especially prison in the South in the fucking 60s.
This is not even a movie about
And even the 60s though,
prison.
to take
Supposed
place
to be the 50s.
50s.
whatever. Also,
Late there, there's
This thing feels so allegorical. I mean, it feels like a
it
fable.
is allegorical. There's a
Oh.
lot of Jesus
It
references.
would be
What did you
interesting
think?
to
Was it
read the
this
book.
shot, Sean? Was it
But
this
no,
shot?
that's what Chris is talking
Yeah,
about.
hello. Yeah, it's not subtle in that respect.
also,
yeah.
But it
literally
doesn't take
every
place in the
single-
real world, is what I'm
every
saying.
single
It feels,
person in this movie-
it feels like Waiting for Godot or reading the book of Job, the story of Job.
Yeah.
every person in this movie is white, which is definitely a thing that would happen in the 1950s in the South in a prison.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
segregated.
definitely.
The fact
There
that
are the two kids.
one of the guards says, "I've been working
grandmother.
as a guard
Right.
for 20 years. I never shot anybody who wasn't white. Never shot a white man." It's like, yeah, okay. They don't bring it up that much, but it's there. The guy who wrote it, this is actually based on real life experiences.
Yeah.
Don
It was
Pierce
shot in California.
in
Yeah,
Road,
what? Central Valley.
actually
They
Lodi.
had to truck in moss.
Yeah, Rhode Island, Rio Vista. They built the
Rio Vista, really?
yeah, Rio Vista. There's a
Yeah.
couple. The Rio Vista Bridge is in this a couple times. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but they did a thing where they built a little prison thing, the little the road gang thing, and the San Joaquin County inspectors tried to shut it down because it wasn't built to code. Now they run it's a movie set, guys.
It's a movie set.
They thought it was they thought it was housing for migrant workers.
Yeah, they did.
Wow.
It's like, and it was just a
Which
that's-
tells you
that's
something
pretty
else
reasonable.
about California in the 60s is that houses for migrant workers look like a fucking prison.
yeah.
Like,
Well, mind you,
Or
we're
a chicken coop.
We're
Yeah.
acculturated Californians, so we kind of see that once you know what's in the Central Valley, that's all you can see, basically. The rolling hills and oak trees and like that stuff, and the orchards. But I guess if you were it doesn't look like the South at all. This film, in
no,
some-
Texas is way flatter than this.
yeah, it is. Or Florida is actually a lot swampier than this. So it's
Right.
like so it has a weird look to it. Yeah.
It's not, again, it's not realism. To me, it's in a bubble of its own universe. You know what I mean? This movie.
I will say that my friend often asks what the movies are when we get together on Sunday mornings, and I was explaining this movie because she hadn't seen it, and I was like, "Yeah, this is about a guy who gets drunk and he cuts the heads off a bunch of parking meters, and then gets sent to a chain gang for 2 years."
Uh-huh.
She goes, "That sounds like small town Texas." Like she's from Texas,
Yeah,
and it's like that sounds like small town
That's
Texas.
exactly
Like that could happen right now.
Yeah.
Like.
Mhm.
One of the things I watched this film like a couple of years ago when I realized that it snuck over the head of everybody was during the part where George Kennedy's character, do you remember the name?
Dragline.
His nickname?
Dragline and Luke were fighting. Remember that time where they're doing a boxing thing?
Yeah.
Everyone's sitting around yelling and screaming and watching it. And there's this one double scene where one of the guys, I think it's Dynamite. He's watching it and he's rubbing his chest like this. And he looks over to this other character, and this other character does this. And it's like, whoa, there's like this tiny bit of gay subtext in this film.
There's
Tiny.
a little, yeah, there's
Yeah.
not a tiny bit in this movie. There's a
Well,
pretty
there's if I want to look at metaphorically, there's a lot, but it's saying specifically that was right in there. And that's kind of unusual, I think.
Huh.
Yeah. And
Well, it would
I
have been
did-
unusual for the time, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
here's,
wouldn't have been unusual for real life.
here's
Exactly.
my, here's my more provocative observation watching this again.
Do tell.
It better.
Oh, well, one was that
It's the same fucking movie.
Chris, you know what's funny? I read an article. I think it was New Yorker. I don't know. Right afterwards, that's compared it specifically to
It's
Cuckoo's
the
Nest.
same fucking movie.
Okay, but add William Holden and Stalag 17. You have a trifecta.
Well,
I think.
sure.
I mean, this is the era. This is the beginning, maybe, of the era of the anti-hero, right?
Yeah. Well, this is.
I'd rather watch Cuckoo's Nest or Stalag.
This is actually cited as like the beginning of the anti-hero thing. This is like 2 years before.
Yeah, this was really early.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
this is the one where the anti-hero was actually kind of starting to jump out. This is after Bonnie and Clyde by 1 year.
I have difficulty
Right.
calling him an anti-hero. I think he is a hero. Like
He's but he's cutting the heads off parking meters. He's a
Kind of a
drunk.
knucklehead.
so
He absolutely
what?
deserves to go to jail.
He does not deserve to go to jail for cutting the heads off parking meters. That's vandalism. Shut up.
True.
I don't disagree with
These
that,
days you
but
get parole for that. Yeah, I know. But
I
it's
think
hard to
this-
say what.
I think he's an anti-hero. I think we could safely say he's an anti-hero.
he's
hard to say what the
there
moral
to-
underpinning of this thing. Do you was Luke was he there to be like a Christ figure, or was he there to learn
Yes.
anything,
Yes,
Yeah.
he's there to
No.
absolutely
Or
be.
is
There's
there-
nothing to learn.
or was he there to get?
They're not there to
Or
teach.
is it a
What
bunch
is he
of
going to
shit
learn?
that happened, like
Oh.
John said? This is a bunch of
could
shit
not
that
be
happened. They
less
beat him
subtle.
down.
It's arbitrary. That's what's so horrible about his treatment is that it's arbitrary. Dig the ditch, fill the ditch in, dig the ditch, fill the
Yeah,
ditch in.
That was
doesn't
tough.
mean-
That was a
it
It
tough
doesn't
one.
mean shit.
They're not there to teach him how could he learn anything.
Right.
That's true.
Like this is punitive.
All
Like,
he can learn is
this
how
is- and the
cruel people
American-
can be.
like the thing I will say absolutely that probably people hadn't seen outside of people who were involved in it is how punitive the system is in America.
Mhm.
Like that is the one great takeaway from this film, and the reason
Sure.
I think people should see it
Mhm.
at least once is like the American justice system is still like this. We are
It's about
still
punishment,
this
not rehabilitation.
right. We are still this punitive and capricious to people. And like nobody wants to believe that because we all have this idea that like, oh no, we're going to send people to prison and they're going to come out reformed. And it's like, no, they're going to come out worse or dead.
Right.
Like those are the only options.
And
Like
being
Unfortunately, I think, and we wrote this in our script, didn't we, Scott?
Yeah.
People don't care about criminals. They care about crime,
yeah,
but they don't really care what happens to them as
No.
long as they're
No,
not
no,
on the street.
In fact,
they, not only
road game-
do they not care about what happens to them, we have been conditioned to believe that they're not people.
No.
Like anyone, you just said he belongs in prison for this, for cutting the heads off parking meters.
Mhm.
Like even then, like
I said
even,
jail, which I think is slightly a shade different.
it's not that different.
Yeah.
Like
there's a weird element of, strangely enough, white privilege in this. You put it in the context of then and now in the 1940s. This was a road gang. You know, these guys these guys aren't in lockup. It's almost a trustee situation where they go out and work in the yard, in the fields every
Let me
day.
go stand over here, boss.
and do manual
Yeah.
labor. And everyone expects
he
they're not gonna-
shoots the fucking bird out of the sky. That is a demonstration of you have no freedom.
Oh no, there's
Like I could do that
okay.
to you
well, no,
like that.
They're still prisoners, but the thing is, in this system,
Not just
it's about as
prisoners
li-
though.
This is about
Your life belongs to
Yeah,
me.
but this is as light as Southern justice goes back then. You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Yeah, this is like this isn't
Yeah,
this
there's
isn't
prison in-
Angola. It isn't like anything like that. This is
I was going to say there's a prison in Louisiana that only has 3 walls. so,
yeah, I know,
you know.
exactly. But like, the thing is, like,
I've been to Angola. You don't want to
this
go in
is-
that swamp.
this is like it's not minimum security, but it's one where if you fuck up mildly, you stay for a couple of year or two. There's actually, they said there's one guy doing life, which isn't helpful, but it's supposed to be like not genteel, but at least not cruel.
And you know,
It still was, because that's the way it is.
it wasn't clear how much time was passing. That wasn't spelled out in the film, but you
Which
got
is
the feeling.
which is what the prison experience is like.
Yeah,
You-
but
you have
you
no
got the feeling
concept
that
of
like
time.
by the time the last prison break happens, when he gets away the last time, he's like, how many more months did he have? And George Kennedy says it. He's like, you just got in the truck and ran, and he sort of lost his mind and went with him. And it's like he only had a few months.
I know. I was short, a couple of months and I was out. I was like, I don't know.
And I think-
Boy, George Kennedy, man. I'm used to him.
Who needs a friend like that? Oh my
Fuck.
God.
What a performance. And I'd never really seen a performance from him because I just associate him with like airport movies. It's just some meatball big guy.
Airport movies, all that. He was always.
I had never seen him do anything that made me think of him as anything as like a B-list actor, but he's like
in the Naked Gun movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Is he in Naked Gun movies too?
He got best supporting for this.
I can see why.
Okay.
However, that voice he was doing, I think Adam Sandler, he falls into that voice that Adam Sandler does, which is like old black man.
A little bit.
Oh.
Yeah. But I'll tell you though, I mean,
Like maybe a white guy from the South in the 60s maybe could talk like that. I don't know. But anyway, by the time I was a little critical of it, by the time they got to the scene where they got away and Paul Newman's character says we should split up, that is George Kennedy's scene right there. Because you realize he is the biggest man inside the prison and he's shit outside. And when he says I have got to go my own way, he's like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do now?
Oh, before he says that, he has his ridiculous idea of getting we're back together again. The terrible trio will be out loose again. There were It's like he wasn't thinking realistically about anything.
He wasn't. He was spinning these yarns and he was believing him.
It was an amazing character.
Yeah, it was an interesting character.
Fun. I mean, back to the things I like about this movie. Let's face it. I mean, this is a star turn for Paul Newman. I mean, he just radiates charisma every scene he's in. It is fun as hell to watch the background, all the character actors, most of whom went on to very long careers.
I know,
including Dean Stanton.
Good ensemble cast.
Harry
It's
Dean.
the only time I've seen him credited as Dean Stanton.
Dean Stanton.
Also, what is this
Richard Anderson from the $6
million Man.
Man.
That's Oscar Goldman.
That's not Oscar Goldman.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
there's
not.
that guy. Oh, the guy. This is Wayne Rogers from MASH. I mean, everybody in the background was in something or many things that were quite.
Isn't one of the Waltons' father?
Oh yeah, the Jack Walton. He was the guy who bought a job at the French.
Ralph Waite.
He ended up in the box.
Ralph White.
Papa Walton.
Also, that goddamn speech about the box in the beginning, what a great 10-minute setup.
Box.
Yeah.
I mean, he lays out the rules of the film.
Well, I mean,
everything.
I think the photography is beautiful. I think that I think the egg scene goes on like 7 or 8 minutes too long for sure.
How many hoppers? Are we gonna say? How many hoppers is this though? You got your Newman.
5, the minimum number of hoppers.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. 5 out of 5
Agreed.
hoppers. Got it. All right, got it.
This is the least hopper you can have.
It's a very subdued performance.
Yeah.
Very subdued performance.
I was disappointed.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there's this.
And there's this.
Oh, that was.
Which also goes on a little longer than it needs to.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, when I usually watch, I skip.
Oh, and he's just sitting there and he's like, come on, pop. Come on, safety pin, pop. Come on, safety pin, pop. It's like, okay, we get it, man.
But
boy, there's a lot of actually this whole this week is a lot of we get it, man.
Yeah.
Well,
although the thing is that the scene after that, when when he was talking about it in the barracks after, that was like painful. It was like there's this weird,
as if he didn't grind it, to a fine point at the end.
I couldn't tell if he was being a bully or he's simply just not really paying attention to what he was saying, because he was like making everybody crazy. And
he just runs his mouth. He's one of those guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, I mean, like, okay, so 1966. This is drafting behind the French New Wave by a couple of years, a year behind Bonnie and Clyde, which also has a pretty downer ending where it's like they tried to stick it to the man.
That's a downer.
And thumb their nose at the man, and they ended up dying at the end.
2 years after Easy Rider, two years before Easy Rider,
which is movie after movie of like good.
8 out of
look how
10
much
hoppers.
fun you can have.
8 out of 5 hoppers.
Doing at the man.
right?
Man always wins.
Right.
Yeah. Generally speaking, that's how it
That
works.
was about a 5 or 6 year, well, maybe even longer, where it was like movie after movie, the protagonist ends up getting squished to death by the closing credits.
Yeah,
remember, Bobby Fuller of the Bobby Fuller 4, who wrote I Fought the Law and the Law Won, was probably murdered by his record label.
Yeah.
The man always wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's kind of that's a.
I mean, again, the level of charisma on screen. I think the scene between Luke and his mom is
Yeah.
breaking. I mean, like that's a really
Is she
good.
smoking a joint?
Say again?
She's smoking
No,
a
she's
joint.
chain smoking. That's all.
Okay,
The
it
thing
really
that-
looked like a
he's-
joint.
He's doing the thing that killed her, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that scene was kind of like that. That's a really good moment. There's a lot of really good moments in this movie.
That one scene is all the character development you get for Steve McQueen's character, except that he's drunk at the beginning and cutting the heads off parking meters.
Sorry,
Paul
Newman,
Newman, Paul Newman, but
Paul
yes.
Newman.
Yeah, Newman.
But they're
What did I
kind of-
say?
You
Steve
said Steve
McQueen.
McQueen, but they're
Steve
actually kind of
McQueen.
interchangeable in my head. In a lot of
What?
no, I'm just kidding.
I understand, and that's why I did.
No, that-
why I
Paul
made the-
Newman. Paul Newman is
Made the
a
mistake.
legendary actor.
Yeah.
Like
But this is the year that actually
McQueen was a
Bullet-
mediocre actor. at
actually
best.
this is the year Bullet came out, so they probably came out the same week. Who knows?
All right.
Yeah, but there it is.
Bullet was 66.
I
But
thought
boy, I mean,
look it up, 67.
Paul Newman. His name is Paul Newman. He does do Suffering very well.
He does.
I
It
know
is-
that
the-
smile.
The
Yeah,
acting.
Those,
the acting
and those
is,
blue eyes.
Well, he's just he has charisma. There's just no way around it. He's a charismatic guy. He's a good-looking fellow.
He's
And
great. I think
I love that they somehow let him go into prison with the chain with the bottle opener on it. Like
That's
he gets
fun.
to keep the bottle opener chain
right,
in jail.
yeah.
Like
Well, that's what I was going back to saying. This is kind of casual in some ways. I know that one point where they were putting things away in the lockers before they went out in the road gang, that Dennis Hopper's character has a model airplane he's working on. It's like there's
Wow.
I know it's like a balsa wood airplane he's actually trying to assemble. It's like, you know,
Oh, and by the way, would the administrative people at this prison supply 50 eggs upon request? Because there was somebody made a bet.
They would. I think the days were long and boring back then. This is what the hell.
Like, sure.
Also, that guy from Connecticut was able to get a hold of the New York Times every day, which is like pretty neat.
Right.
He probably got his-
you gotta wonder what the distribution situation was there. Are they bringing that in from Dallas? Like
I don't know. It must be coming a couple days late. You know, it's like, oh, he's
New
still,
Orleans.
yeah. He was. I can't tell if he was like one of those guys he's supposed to be speaking for us. The guy from Connecticut. It's like, you know, the society. Well, it wasn't society. I think it was
It's a
society.
coastal liberal.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Richard
like
Anderson from Six
yeah.
Million Man.
it wasn't him from the $6 Million Man. It was some of the.
It isn't?
It's
Are you
not.
sure?
it's
God, he
not,
looks
it's
like
not-
him.
It looks like him, but he's much shorter. But it's not him. But yeah. So
It was really to me it was exciting to watch because it felt like the beginning of sort of the late 60s 70s auteur thing that was happening in America,
Mhm.
where it just felt fresh. It was like,
Yeah.
let's put the camera really close to the parking meter, let's put the camera up on this guy's mirrored shades and show the reflection. They were just trying stuff, and some of it seems a little hokey now.
Yeah.
You know, especially the mirrored shades thing. I thought was just wow.
They
That's
say
really-
tried it. You know what I mean? It's
But
it's
it was
imitating
new.
now.
Cool.
It
though.
was
It
new.
was new, yeah.
The photography was amazing in this film.
Also, think about
really
how,
feel like
think
the
about how
shackles coming off,
precisely
you
you
know?
have to position that camera before CG
yeah.
to get to not have the camera and the camera operator
No.
be in
You have the
shot.
whole crew kind of
Yeah.
crouched up on the floor
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, and as far as I can tell, that's not an optical. They just
No, they didn't
figured
have
it
those
out.
back then. They just did it, man.
No, they
figured out the
probably
shot.
they probably bent the glasses a little bit so
Oh.
that they're facing a little more this way
Yeah.
versus this way,
yeah,
and then they get the camera like
right on
6
his
inches
nose.
away from his nose, get
Yeah.
the shortest lens they can, and they're just like,
Also, one thing, a big props to the music in this film. Lalo
I thought so
Schifrin.
too.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
Oh my
Lalo
God,
Schifrin,
it's so
best known
unusual.
for the Mission Impossible thing.
Yeah, but it's so unusual sounding. The whole thing is just like this reverbing banjo thing, and this
that was weird.
orchestral stuff. It was like it brought attention to itself in a lot of places,
well,
but
that adds to the
it said a
unreality.
fantastic mood, I thought.
I thought a lot of the music cues didn't work, but
Really?
boy, by God, when they're tarring the road, that fucking works,
You know,
man.
do
That
you
is
remember as a
so
kid
good.
that music was on the Channel 7 News? You remember that?
Action news.
Yeah,
I almost pulled the screen grab just like a video clip just to play right because I
all
mean,
us
like,
Bay Area, all us Bay Area kids,
Remember that music from the
all of us Bay Area kids remember that music. Channel 7.
Jim hasn't said anything.
Nope.
Jim's Corner. Hello, Jim.
He's still not saying anything.
Jim.
Is he frozen?
I don't
No,
know.
his eyes are
No.
moving. I can see his eyes moving.
I can't hear you. There's a
Oh, should I put
washing
something down?
machine
It's your
going in the
corner.
kitchen.
your corner, Jim.
We're gonna shut up.
Did you ask me a question, John?
We want your take. You have been very quiet.
I enjoyed it a lot. But I've seen both these movies a ton of times.
Just have to
so
put
it's
that up
hard
every
for me
time now.
to figure them out first time. It's an important flick. Yeah, 67. I mean, 67 is when Bonnie and Clyde came out. I think these both came out when I was in 5th grade.
I mean, what Stuart was it? Stuart Rosenberg is just like a
What's
definition
that?
70s journeyman director Stuart Rosenberg, right? Like he did
Yeah.
Drowning Pool, Laughing Policeman, a few others.
Yeah. He also did
Flash.
this weird film called Pocket Money a couple years later. We got Paul Newman back. It's a really low budget film. It's all set in Mexico, where Paul Newman was playing a guy who was trying to set up a deal for cattle from Mexico, and that's Heather Martin in it too. Had half the cast
And
of
what's
this.
it called?
It's called Pocket
Pocket
Money.
Money.
Pocket Money.
Pocket
Yeah.
Money.
It's a
Yeah,
very.
isn't this the first of 6 movies that they would do together?
I think
Newman
he
and
did more with
Rosenberg?
George Roy Hill than
George Roy Hill did a ton of Paul Newman.
Yeah.
No. Strother
Martin?
Oh,
Martin.
so tons. He did. They
Yes.
did.
I
Yeah,
think
it
they
was-
did 6 movies
They did.
together. I
They
think
did.
this is the first and Slapshot's the last.
Actually, Butch Cassidy. I can't remember which came first, this or Butch Cassidy. I
Butch
don't remember.
Cassidy was later.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, it was the first of the movies together. Who knows why? It's
God,
like a
somebody
strange-
should pick Butch Cassidy.
I know we should.
I
Oh,
haven't
you
seen that in
you
years.
wanna talk
I
about-
haven't either.
I was
You
comparing the
should
movie.
do Butch
the
Cassidy
music
and
in that
The
film
Princess
sucks.
Bride.
Okay.
There you go. That's a good combo, actually.
right, well,
I'd
I
do
got-
They're
that.
both
Really
written
enough,
by
I-
Goldman.
Solid.
Yeah.
Here. I think we should go to cards. At this point.
Solid thumbs up.
Yeah.
Star Maker,
I-
Paul Newman.
My answer is thumbs up if you haven't seen it. You should watch it. If you have seen it, you probably don't need to watch it again.
That's what that is a very reasonable way of putting things. I think
Yeah.
there are some
Yeah.
films like that. I've seen it once. I've seen it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's how it is.